Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Elder Geek Game Club. My name is Steve Wilkinson. We're recording once again on a sunny Sunday morning here. I've got Randy Yasenchuk, the editor and owner of ElderGeek.com. How you doing today, Randy?
I'm doing well. We're recording this live, actually, on Twitch as well, so this is kind of a fun little experiment for us.
Yep.
None of us right now are playing. Like, what you're seeing is video capture. It should be like about an hour and 45 minutes of uninterrupted, live video capture. So even if we go on a little bit long, it should be, it should be good to watch. But what you're seeing is my first playthrough on survival mode. So if it looks like I'm getting my butt handed to me by zombies, I am getting my butt handed to me by zombies.
Don't be fooled.
Yeah, I mean, survival mode is hard, but totally worth it. But there we go.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you might hear him in the background there, joining us again for his second Game Club appearance in a row, as it were. Chris Geehan.
He's actually a new host on the show.
HyperDuck SoundWorks. Chris,
Hello.
welcome to the show. Welcome back. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Glad to have you here. Yeah, just mentioned
we're replacing Phil.
Phil's fired. Yeah, so we fired Phil.
See ya, Phil.
And if Phil ever comes back, we're just calling him Chris.
Phil will be
Chris?
back. Phil will be with us on the next episode. He hadn't played Last of Us, so it was kind of... It was a situation where we would have had to have waited a really long time to do this episode. And Phil gave us his blessing and said, hey, let's get it out while the game is still sort of timely. And so he's sitting this one out. So thanks, Phil. Hats
Speaking of
off.
the game being timely, I put up the review and still got some snarky comments of people saying,
Of
like,
course.
You're just reviewing this now?
Yeah, so earlier this week, or late last week, however you look at it, how your week begins on a Sunday or ends, Randy put up the review of ElderGeek.com. You like that
Sorry,
explanation of how a week works?
Still a little sore about that one. No, it was one of those things where Chris really graciously sent over a copy of it, and a ton of people were asking for the review for it, and I was like, yeah, I really do want to review this. And as I said in one of the comments, it was kind of funny. In between the last episode that we did of Game Club and this week, I literally started. I was in a random conversation with a paleontologist who was like, "Hey, have you tried The Last of Us yet?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And he started telling me all about the disease that was in the game and how excited he absolutely was about the game, not because of like what was going on in the game, but because of the disease in the game. And I was like, I really got to play this thing. I'm literally the last person on the planet to have tried this.
It's at least you're there, though. I'm just glad that you've played it, and you picked up so much more from it than I did on my first playthrough. I was just like, like the stuff about the lilacs and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yes,
Real quick before we get into this, I had wanted to mention at the top of the show before we said too much. This episode is going to be completely spoiler filled.
Yeah,
we are spoiling the hell out of this game. So if you're listening or watching on YouTube or on Twitch or whatever, and you don't want to have the game spoiled, then
just kill the feed and go watch last week's episode where we talked about dust.
Yeah. Or go watch the review because Randy doesn't spoil anything in the review. The review is spoiler free for the most part. But yeah, don't listen to this because we're gonna say everything. Starting 3, 2, 1.
Ellen is Darth Vader. How many times did you guys complete the game?
Only once so far.
Go ahead, Chris.
Really? Only one time?
I started the survival last week, and then I just haven't had time to go back to it. But I was like instantly enjoying it even more because I like the super like listening ability was cool and all, but it's kind of nice, when you go first through it to really just use that so that you can enjoy it more. And like I mean, the first time through, I still got my ass handed to me at some points.
Yeah.
But like, and I was on normal mode, but I mean, I sucked, so that's why it happened. And but like, it's like nice to really sort of focus on the story the first time through, and then second time it's like, the story, and now it's just more about being a Geehan the second time around. Like with the survival, it's really like And like from the gameplay there, you know, you can tell you're getting your ass handed to you by zombies and stuff in the survival. It's pretty tough, like, you know, it's good though. It's good tough.
You know what's funny is like the harder parts, like honestly, when you're playing survival mode or even on normal mode, I found that some of the harder parts were literally in the beginning. Even after I played the game, one of the toughest stealth segments I think is the first one that you're given, where you're with Ellie and Tess, and you drop down to take out. It's only like 5 zombies or 5 runners or whatever. It might be like 4 runners and a clicker. Mm-hmm. That is like literally the hardest stealth segment in the entire game.
Yeah. It's awesome though, and it's really like that's your real first encounter with like lots of them as well.
Yeah.
I was screaming like a girl the first time I did that because I would get caught and I'd be sitting with my friend and I'm like, don't get caught, don't get caught. You got caught, run!
Yeah, and then there's like nowhere to run to. Yeah, you're just stuck in like two or 3 rooms that are basically just boxes, and you're just done if you get caught.
Yeah.
Hey Randy, real quick, the chat room's saying they don't hear you. They hear me and Chris, but they don't hear you.
Oh no! Are you kidding?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation, but I figured if people were going to be sitting here for an hour, they might want to hear what you're saying. So I completed the game once and a half. Oh, hey, Matt, like sleep. How's it going?
I almost wonder if we need to start all over again.
Nah, don't worry about it.
If I have to fake it, I'll fake it.
We'll just fake it.
Just
sorry for anyone listening at home or on YouTube. You know, it happens. Whatever.
I'll just write down what Randy says on a post-it and just do it.
Can they hear me now? Hopefully they should be able to now.
Can anyone in the chat room confirm that you can hear Randy, please? Just a yes or no.
Blink twice for yes, once for no.
Okay. I guess they can't hear any of us. All right. Moving forward then. Okay.
They can't hear us? Really?
They can hear you. They can hear you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We're good. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Hey, we don't do very many live. This is why we don't do many live Game Club episodes. It just adds another layer of technical stuff that we need to deal with.
Ask Chris. Streaming is not easy, especially if you're doing it right. We were actually just going back and forth all week trying to get his setup to go, and then just no.
And then I just stuck all my equipment on eBay and sold it. I like, screw it. I'll start again next week. Nah, I was using the Elgato Game Capture HD, which is, to be honest, like, you know, I bought it with the intention of using it with the PS3 and the Xbox, which is fine, and the Wii, and it works perfectly with those, you know. But I can't get it to work with my computer, and it's just, I don't know. I'm gonna deal with it next week. I don't want to deal with it this week.
What he means by computer is he wants to be able to stream his PC into the card to capture what's on his screen.
I see. I got you.
I wanted to, like, you know, record Assassin's Creed 3, you know, from Steam, and it's just, it does record it, no problem. Records my voice, no problem. Doesn't record the PC audio. So and I've went through all the solutions and stuff and nothing yet. So I'll worry about it next week.
We'll get there, dude.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Steve, what about you, dude? How many times did you finish the game?
I finished the game. Well, I really saw the ending one time. So here's what happened. And I played through the game. I got about I was a little more than 2/3 of the way through the game on normal. And to be honest with you, I kind of hit this point where I was like, you know what? I just want to get through and finish the story. So I dialed it back down to easy. I was at a part where I was getting frustrated, and I was just like, I'm going to put it on easy so I can get through, finish the story, and, you know, whatever. To be honest, I didn't see a huge difference between normal and easy in difficulty. It was a little more forgiving, but not like there was some situations where on normal, if you kind of got like 2 or 3 people on you, you'd be done. Yeah. Where you could kind of like squeak through it with a little bit of health left on easy.
Yeah.
So I finished the game that way, and then I went back and I'm replaying it now from where I left off on normal all the way through, and I'm almost done on that version. And then I'm going to check out survival and stuff. I typically don't like playing games again on harder difficulties.
Yeah.
But this is a rare case where I've enjoyed it so much, and I feel like the game is rewarding enough as a game, the gameplay, that I do want to try it on hard difficulties and get used to it. So I was right up to the point where you are where you and Sam get separated from Henry and Ellie when you're in the sewers.
Oh,
yeah. That was where I was.
Tough too.
Yeah, I was at that part, and that's where I split up. Yeah, sorry, chat room. We're not talking about what it says up there. We're actually talking about Last of Us, and this is going to be a very spoiler-heavy episode. So if you don't want anything spoiled, tune out now.
What does it say above our stream?
It says something about Dawngate. Shen playing Dawngate or something like that.
Shen playing Dawngate? Shen's been gone for like a week.
Yep.
Shen's literally in the process of going from one side of the country to the next by car, so... Sorry, we forgot to retitle the channel ahead of time. And what's weird is when you do that midstream, Twitch doesn't register the change midstream. So,
right.
Darn you, Twitch.
Right.
All right. Well, I guess I'm the giant nerd. I finished the game 3 times.
Three times. That is awesome to hear.
I did it. I did once on normal. Actually, no. I started the game on normal. And then something happened. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I remember. My additional capture device came in, or not my additional capture device, but the device that lets me record in 1080p came in, and so I was like, I can't do the video review like half in 1080p and half in 720, so I'm gonna start over again on 1080p. So I went back and I started it again on hard, and I captured like almost the entire game in 1080p. And but anyway, so I finished it on hard, and then when I was done with that, I was like, I really want to do survival because that was pretty great. And so I did it on survival, and then I couldn't help but notice that I got like no achievements for the game. And then I was like, what's up with that? And I noticed that the game really doesn't have that many achievements in the first place. Mm-hmm. But one of the achievements is to get the game finished on survival plus. And so that's what I did. I did the game on hard, then on survival, and then on survival plus.
Wow.
Survival plus, man?
Yeah, it's Survival plus, it's like New Game Plus. You finish the game and then you can start the game over again with all the upgrades and stuff that you did. You don't have all the weapons, right. So when you go into the basement in the beginning and you pick up your gun, you still only get the 9mm, but the 9mm,
it's fully upgraded.
Yeah, it's tricked out with all the stuff that you put into it. And the same thing with like the 45 and everything else. So in that sense, like Survival Plus is a ton easier than doing Survival the first time. So when I did Survival Plus, I burned through it. And the other thing was when I did survival mode, I like saved all my ammo and kind of powered through the last bit of it by just doing, guns of blazing. And when I did survival plus, since my guns were so OP, I was just like, ha 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 ha, and just like blowing everybody away and crossbowing everybody away. Except, I say that, but when you watch this portion of the game, you're given so little ammunition. So if it looks like I'm trying to conserve ammo, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of we have some questions, things some points we want to hit. What do you think about the idea of The Last of Us being just another zombie game? I mean, do you think it is, or do you think it kind of...
Chris, would you like to go, or shall I, or...
I think you go first.
I have some thoughts. I have thoughts. I'm smart, Michael. I have thoughts.
I was actually the person that wrote out just another zombie game, and I did that kind of intentionally because a lot of people say, "Oh, it's just another zombie game," or even just the phrase "it's just another zombie game" is kind of thrown out there for a lot of games, and I never really think zombie games, like good zombie games and good zombie movies, should never just be zombie movies or just be zombie games. Like even Dawn of the Dead or even Day of the Dead or anything like that, they're never just about the zombies. There's always a larger message, like about consumerism or xenophobia or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And in that regard, no, I don't think that The Last of Us is just another zombie game. Because the greater message about this is about kind of like re-exploring the core concept of what makes a family kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And aside from that, if you wanted to go on like a technical nerd level, which I would love to do, they're not actually zombies because they're not actually dead yet.
Right.
So They're not reanimated corpses. So there
Yeah.
you go. Not just another zombie game.
You can count me in amongst the people who were like, ugh, a zombie game. When they first announced it, when I first saw the trailers and everything, I was super disappointed. Being a big fan of the Uncharted series and really excited to see what they were going to do next. When I first saw the previews of The Last of Us, that was my initial response was, oh man, I can't believe they're doing a zombie game, because I'm just so beyond over zombies at this point. I'm just kind of that, it's just way oversaturated. So to see them doing the same kind of thing just really kind of disappointed me, because I was like, we don't need it. We don't need another one. But that being said, I think that, to your point, Randy, absolutely. I think that the story that Naughty Dog tells and their ability as storytellers is just at a caliber that's so above a lot of other developers out there that I feel like the game at no point to me feels like just another zombie game, or even a zombie game. I know people in the chat room are saying that they are zombies, but technically, I mean, maybe they are technically, but or they have zombie-like qualities to them. But you're right; they're not technically zombies. They are infected with this disease that infects their brain. It's like saying, do you consider the
zombies
creatures
in Left 4 Dead as zombies?
No, I consider those to be zombies. I was actually going to say, do you consider the zombies in 28 Days Later to be zombies?
Oh, with the rage virus. No.
Because they don't die and reanimate. They just become what they are. And it's kind of that same idea.
And they even starve to death, those zombies.
Right, you're right. Yeah, if they didn't, So I don't think that they're your traditional zombies at all. But I think that the game itself is just a step above kind of those cliches of what you get in most zombie stuff.
Yeah.
I at this point I actively avoid zombie fiction because I'm just tired of it. We stopped watching The Walking Dead. I stopped reading The Walking Dead around a couple issues after 100, and we've stopped watching the show now after a couple seasons. I'm just done with it. I'm like, I just don't care anymore.
Dude, that is so crazy to hear, because you were a huge Walking Dead fan.
I was a huge Walking Dead fan before the TV show, as the comic series was ongoing, and now it's just too much. I'm done. I don't mean to sound like a hipster about it, or I was into it way before it was cool. But you know what? I was into it way before it was cool, and I'm just done with it now.
It's been done a lot, so I don't blame you, really. It's been a lot of... I mean, think about how far back it's been going, I think it's really just come to its boiling point with Walking Dead, the TV show and the games and stuff. I still quite like it, but I mean... it's crazy. It's like people are just constantly still doing it, in all shapes and forms, And I think I was kind of the same as you were. Whenever I saw the Last of Us trailer, I was like, "Wow, that looks really cool." But the first thing, it didn't give me. It's like one of those typical trailers that didn't give me enough to really sort of solidify an answer in my head whether or not it was going to be just another zombie game or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for me, The Last of Us is really, and the story of The Last of Us, while it is unique, the characters are unique, and the way it progresses is, it's really nice. It has really similar qualities to other ways that, that story has been told before, it feels like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so it's not trying to be a brand new story, it's just trying to, it's all, I think it is about the story, but more than anything it's about the characters, because you could tell that story 1,000 times, and if you didn't have the right people, the right characters for it, it wouldn't matter to you the way it did, the way they developed the characters for you, because
Mm-hmm.
it isn't a groundbreaking story. It's not whoa, and and you could a lot of the stuff you could kind of imagine was gonna, or predict it was gonna happen and stuff, so there wasn't really that many points where I was taken back and really shocked,
Mm-hmm.
even whenever spoiler.
No, you're allowed to spoil. Talk as though the people who are listening have played the game.
Yeah, well, whenever Tess dies, I was I I felt that was going to happen at some point, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
already. Like, I don't know why. I didn't feel that surprise whenever she was like, you know.
Well,
boom.
yeah, that and all the trailers and all the gameplay footage and everything before the game came out never showed Tess. So
Yeah.
like, as I'm playing, I'm like, man, she's not long for this one because
Yeah.
She even wears a red shirt for crying out loud.
yeah.
Tess. I knew Tess was gonna die before, and I didn't even watch a lot of the trailers. Just kind of the way they were treating the character a little bit. I was like, yeah, you're dead. It's just a matter of when. And I got to admit, I was like surprised at how early they kind of cut her out. So.
Well, she couldn't be there because then that forced Joel and Ellie to bond, you know, and be on their own, and he had to, you know, kind of make that hard decision that he'd do what he didn't want to do, which was stick with Ellie and get her to the Fireflies, and so that getting rid of her early forced him to do that, and that, you know, if she had stayed longer, it would have just prolonged that development of their relationship. Yeah. But I agree with what you said, Chris. You mentioned, you know, the fact that the story's not really all that groundbreaking, and really it's these other factors. It's definitely a sum of all of its parts, and I mean the writing was really good. I feel like all the dialogue was really good.
Totally was.
I never remember a part where I was like, God, that line was so cheesy or anything, you know, like that. It just was always spot on, and the performances from the voice actors was just amazing. I actually went ahead and got the documentary.
Really
Called,
cool.
what was it called? Something ground up or something like that.
That's awesome.
It's the Area 5, the guys who used to produce the One Up Show, and
wow.
and co-op for Revision 3.
Yeah,
they do like, I guess they're doing like just like documentary stuff now, and so it's like a 90-minute documentary on the making of the game with interviewing Naughty Dog, a lot of stuff on the sound stage where they were doing the mocap performances from the actors.
Yeah.
And you know, it gave me such a huge appreciation for what those people did, man. And Richard McSundy in the chat room just said Troy Baker is so fucking great, and he's right, man. Watching his performances on the soundstage, just I totally like. I'm that guy's number one fan now because
that's awesome.
I mean,
I have to see that. You have to throw me a link to that.
Yeah, unfortunately, right now the only way to get it is you have to buy the season pass of the DLC. And then,
really?
And then you can download it through the PlayStation Store. So I was like, you know what? I've enjoyed this game enough. Normally, I'm not a fan of season pass type things. In fact, I'm almost against them. But this was a situation where I felt like I've gotten so much enjoyment out of this game, and I want to get so much more out of it through the DLC. And I want to watch this video really bad and support the Area 5 guys because I'm a fan of their work. So I was like, you know what? I'll pay $20 and I'll get this. Unfortunately, that's the only way it's out there right now. You have to play it. It's not like a DRM free copy that you can give to anyone. It just plays on your PlayStation.
What about like can you just get it on the PlayStation Store?
Standalone, no. You have to get you have to buy the season pass.
See, that's lame. Like I'll go off on a tiny little soapbox about season pass crap. I would support the idea of seasons pass more if like what they gave you was more single player standalone content or even good multiplayer content to add to it. But a lot of times what they give you to pad out and make your $20 or whatever worth it, they'll give you crap that's like they're like, oh, here's the time trials version of this game. I don't want to play time trials. Give me another story. Give me.
They are actually adding more single player story.
Yeah,
really?
I did read that when they did an AMA on Reddit, which looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I had known that. I had known that ahead of time too. So that was the other reason I was kind of like, I can handle this. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 DLC packs coming out, and that they're all included in that $20, and then you get the video as well. The video was really what I wanted. I actually would have paid $20 just for the video, because it was a pretty good documentary. But yeah, so yeah, the actors, man, just the stuff they did, the way they acted out those scenes was just fantastic to watch. And if it ever becomes available in any other form, I don't know that I would suggest just to anybody to go out and pay $20 to watch the documentary. But if you ever have a chance, I mean, it's pretty impressive. And Nolan North, man, was just, he was awesome. It was so cool that he was in the game, and he talks on the documentary about how he actively did not want anyone to know it was him.
Wait, Nolan North is in the game?
He was David.
He was David.
The head of the cannibal people in Colorado.
Get out of here! Really?
Yep.
No way.
Yep.
I
Mind
missed
blown.
that completely.
I didn't hear that either.
Yeah.
And I was just going to make the point. Hey, it was kind of neat to see Naughty Dog or use a Nolan or not have Nolan North in one of their games. All right, just in general, it was kind of cool to not see Nolan North in another game. Huh? How about that?
Yep, that was him, and so he actually sat there and was like doing the voice of David and talking about how he kind of broke it down and came up with he just wanted to do something that didn't sound like himself at all.
Yeah.
So when I realized that, totally that character took on a whole new life for me because I was like, man. But yeah, so the performances are really what kind of, because you can have a story, you can write the story and have this idea of a father figure and a daughter figure who aren't actually those things and then kind of becoming that. But I mean, if the people who are delivering these lines and these performances aren't nailing it, then it's just going to fall flat. And I mean, the emotional connection you make as you're playing through the game is just I haven't had that many times in games. What I felt in this. I mean, a lot of people have talked about that opening scene, and it's kind of been talked to death, I guess, in a lot of podcasts of what you don't expect playing it is you sit down and you watch an intro scene introducing Joel and his daughter Sarah, and then you are then put into a situation where you're controlling Sarah the night of the outbreak, and you're kind of taken through how she then meets up with her father, Joel, and then goes from there. And I mean, I wasn't expecting that at all. And it was extremely powerful, I thought. I played it. I played the opening of the game by myself. My wife and daughter were away for the weekend, and I was sitting in the house by myself at like 11:30 at night. I played through that, and I got through that opening scene, and then him holding her as she's like dying in his arms, and I was just like, holy shit! Like I need to take a break and like walk away from this for a little while.
Where's the dog? I need a hug.
I've said on the show before in the past, and I have an almost 9-year-old daughter, and playing through that scene, I mean, just it was really effective. I rarely get choked up. I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've cried in the last 20 years.
But how many times did you cry while playing Last of Us?
I didn't
almost
cry.
cry.
I didn't sob. All right, it wasn't like a deep like moaning, wailing, sobbing. But I definitely got choked up a few times.
I got choked up 3 times.
Yeah, and that was one of them, man. When that scene with him holding her and just, I mean, as a father and especially as a father of a little girl, I mean, that just like tore my heart out watching that. And then watching him as he did that mocap performance and what he went through to get that performance out of himself. I mean, it was, good
Chris,
stuff.
what about you, dude? Did you get choked up at all?
I'm
asking the hardcore killer out of the 3 of us. He's like, nah.
I never cry.
I only cry when I run out of ammo.
Yeah, I did actually. It was that opening scene was pretty tough. Like, I did get choked up at that, and then there were other points as well. I was just trying to think of the other points in it because there was multiple times whenever you met the. What'd you call the other guy that you met?
Bill?
And his son died.
Henry.
Henry, yeah.
Henry. Whenever his son died, I was like, I don't know.
Oh, really? That
yeah.
what got you?
Because he killed himself afterwards. I was just like,
oh yeah.
It was like, if you're just thinking about it, I was like, this is the last thing he had in the world, and then he just watched it go, and he was just like instantly not even thinking about it, boom, gone. Like it was like. That was one of the things. I go back on what I said earlier on. There were things I could predict, but I didn't see that coming at all. Like, and that's, I think it was maybe the shock factor that kind of made me choke up a wee bit about it. But that was that was definitely that. And then at the very end as well, obviously, whenever like you're trying to get the Ellie, and then like you see whenever they're they've escaped and they're way far out, and she's like didn't know what happened, and then he was like explaining to her, he was lying to her, but while he was lying to her, you were seeing what was happening, and then he shot the other girl, and I was like, fucking hell, Like he's just like he doesn't fuck around. Like like he's so because you love Joel, like you really love him, like and like. But then you have to sit and think he is such a violent bastard. Like he's so, but like that's the thing. Like that's like that kind of like 20 years on from whenever this hit the human race, and like you can tell that he would have been like this back then. At the start, but like it was just kind of he protects his own. It's that kind of primal instinct. He will kill to protect the people that he loves. Like, and he won't even think twice about it. And I thought that was pretty good way to end it. Like, there was one other one, but I can't remember what it was. So I'm gonna ask you because you will definitely have a few. Like, and I think I'll also trigger some memories in my head. Like, so
honestly, the one that, aside from the intro scene, the one that actually got me the worst, and I don't even think a lot of people. I even talked to Steve about this when he was like, "Really, you got choked up about that one, nerd wussy." No, but the one was when they're in the sewers. And you find out all the stuff about Ish and all the people that were still living in that sewer or the water runoff or whatever that was. But you find the room where the kids all died, and on the floor is written "They didn't suffer," and that just fucking killed me. I was like, you gotta be kidding me! They just put a pile of dead kids in the room, and then like basically give you this big backstory about them and everything.
Yeah.
That, by the way, if they do a DLC about Ish, I would play that, definitely. That would be a day one purchase for me.
That was a great, and speaking of storytelling and stuff like that, I mean, that was a great underlying subplot of the game, which had no impact on anything aside from just, a lot of times in games you get the audio logs, like you have like the Doom 3 thing where you're like going around and picking up audio diaries and you got to sit there and listen to it and it's like blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
And it basically like tips you off that like when you go in the next room, there's going to be a monster in the closet, basically is like what the audio, but this was a thing where it just fleshed out this story that had really no impact on anything, but it was just super interesting. You find the boat that washed up on the beach and you find out about its captain Ish, which was great because there's like the Ishmael
yeah.
So then you find the entrance to the sewers and you go in there and you find a whole bunch of information about him meeting up with David and Susan. Was the name of the woman?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Or I might have the names wrong, but anyway, he meets up with a couple and their kids and talks about how he thinks he can trust them because they have kids and he wants to invite them to come stay with him in the sewer. And then you find the bodies of the kids and the guy, and then then you make your way out and you get to the suburban neighborhood and you find more information. And this is from the point of view of the guy and the woman and them meeting Ish and feeling like they can trust him. And then you find out what happened in the sewer, why, all just from picking up pieces of paper and reading things, and just really well told in a way that normally I just avoid that stuff. I just don't even care, like playing like anything like any other type of game that has that mechanic in it. I usually just skip it. But this was a game where it just was done in such a way. I don't even know what it was that drew me into it. But it was so ingrained in the world and the story that
it wasn't invasive. That's the thing. Like it wasn't like, hey, like bang, right up like in your face. It wasn't sort of making the flow of your gameplay disjointed in any way. It was just
right.
It was just all there as you went along, like, and it's nice. Like, I need to go back and play it now. Just talking about it, it's just like I want to go back because I'm pretty sure I missed out on a lot of those I picked up a lot of the papers and stuff, but I'm pretty sure I missed out on some of those wee kind of like story developments you're talking about.
I think the other thing is the reason why I think that it's so effective is like most of the other active male characters, or even I guess in the case of Ish, he would be an inactive male character in the story. They're all almost sort of iterations of Joel in a way of like how the story could have gone. Like with Ish, his would be the story of how things would go if shit went awry with Joel, if he wasn't successful in protecting Ellie and Tess. And then with Bill, it's kind of the story of, if Joel were to, instead of opening up and becoming friends and almost a father figure with Ellie, what it would be like for him if he were to just shut her off, because by this point he would have lost his his wife prior to the game, his brother who he would have never been talking to anymore, Tess, and then pretty much everybody. So Bill would have been the incarnation of Joel if Joel went that route. And then with even with what's his name, Sam, the Nolan North character,
David,
even him, like Joel is so violent and so unpredictable. You could even see him going down that route as well. So it's kind of like a luck of the draw situation as to how you end up in this world.
A lot of people have said, I've read things on forums and stuff. After I finished the game, I kind of went out and wanted to get people's opinions as well because I was curious. I had avoided all spoilers and everything, but a lot of people said, basically they got into the whole thing that people have said about Nathan Drake and Lara Croft is like Joel's a mass murderer. He's a psychotic murderer. And at one point in the game, David even says something, when he's talking to Ellie, and he's like, my men, one came back and said they were all slaughtered by a maniac, and yeah, he is kind of insane, but I think a lot of it probably spawns from the moment at the beginning of the game where his daughter dies in his arms, and he just loses his mind. He is psychotic. He's become unhinged and killing, and he's probably been in shock for 20 years and just never had a chance to deal with any of it, and that's why he's just able to murder people basically without even kind of hesitating.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, David would be the exact same way because there's a point when you're escaping with Ellie or trying to escape where you listen through the window. They've got women and children and families and non-hunting people that live within their society, and they talk about how they need to evacuate them and they need to like get them away from Ellie. So it's not like David is this purely evil guy. Like Joel and David are really close to the same, with the exception of maybe David is probably a pedophile. I mean, you don't even know.
and he's a cannibal.
And he's a cannibal. Okay, so he's a cannibal and a pedophile. Okay, so those are the two traits that really push him over the edge of being like the bad guy. But aside from that, the two of them are really the same character.
Don't put those things on your CV, you will not get the job.
Also, hobbies. Cannibalism.
Speaking of David and that whole thing, that was one of my moments. Was the moment when Ellie just fucking goes apeshit with the machete and just kills David.
Yeah,
chops his head up, right. And then right as she's done, Joel comes running in. Finally, they're reunited, and they have that moment. She's like ready to go after Joel too, and he calms her down, and he's just. Their voices go down. You can't hear what they're saying. You just see them talking to each other, and the music swells up. That part, I got seriously was like choking back tears at that part. That really got me. That was
Same. That was
a great moment,
brilliant moment. Like I was shocked and like see her character kind of get a bit fractured at that point. Like really sort of change into something a wee bit like what Joel is like as well. And it was like. Joe probably like that whole point when he comes in, he could see, her kind of losing it the way he would had lost it and would lose it multiple times throughout the whole thing, the whole story,
And that leads into one of my favorite moments in the game, as far as storytelling goes, is when they get to Salt Lake City. And they're in that, I guess it looks like a bus station or a train station or something. They're in some sort of there's all like lines, like the ropes. Anyway.
Yeah.
You get to that place, and Ellie, you've walked into town. Ellie has seemed very kind of disconnected and just quiet, which is very odd. I think Randy, you had put a note about this somewhere in there about that Joel and Ellie kind of flip sides. Joel becomes very talkative. He's like, I'm going to teach you how to play guitar. We're going to do the, blah, 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 blah. And Ellie's just like, yeah. You get to that station, and Ellie's sitting there, and there's that moment where, you realize, okay, I need to get the ladder, and I need, I've done this 20 times in the game so far. And Joel picks up the ladder, and he puts it there, and it shows him, and he does the thing where I'm like pantomiming this to the camera, so for people in the audio version, you're getting nothing out of this, sorry. He does the thing to hoist her up, and then it just stops for a second, and normally the animation is now Ellie hops on his foot and climbs up and does, but it doesn't happen, and then Joel's like, Ellie, and she's like, huh? And she's still sitting over on the other side of the room, and it was just such a, I just love that part so much. It's really probably my favorite part of the game. I just felt like that was such a neat moment where it kind of breaks the fourth wall, but also uses this fourth wall in that it uses a game mechanic that you're like so you're so used to and just expecting it to work a certain way because you've done it so many times already, and then just have it disconnect for a moment. And you're like, what the heck? So you're like almost feeling Joel's what's going on in his head is like, what the hell? This is just how this is supposed to work. What's going on? And then, then he kind of reels Ellie back in, and then you have the giraffe moment a second later, which is another touching moment of the game. But I just thought that was such a cool piece, and it really did such a great job of showing. They could have done that as a cutscene where Ellie and Joel had a 5-minute conversation about how she's dealing with what she did to David and everything that happened to her, and instead they did that quick little sequence where they messed with the game mechanic, and it just I felt like it was a million times more effective.
Yeah, it's so well written. Like, really is. So much care. You can just feel so much care has went into every single moment that goes through it. There's no like real weak part in the writing at all. Like, there's no kink or chink in the armor. Like,
right. Yeah. Like oh boy, here's the driving level.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Great.
The driving level. Yeah.
There's none of that. It just does what it does and does it well. Keeps a pretty good pace. I mean, the game's like 15 hours long. I think I was at about 15 hours when I finished it.
Which is a pretty good length for a single player game. For a single player action game, that's a good chunk of time.
Yeah, totally.
And I think nowadays it feels like you're lucky if you get 8 hours out of a single player game.
Yeah, 8 seems to be the norm. 10 is rare, and anything above that is pretty much.
Which is kind of a shame because it used to be like 18 to 21.
But at the same time, a lot of times you'd play those 21-hour single. If it's like an RPG, that's one thing. But if you're playing like a first-person shooter and it's 20-some hours, like I'm reminded of the first Resistance game, which just had a ton of padding in it, and there were parts in that game that just dragged on and on and on, and you're just like, God damn it, this game could have been 6 hours, and I would have enjoyed it so much more.
Yeah.
So if this game manages to be 15 hours, but feel like. It doesn't feel like it's too long. It doesn't feel like it's too short. It just feels perfect.
Yeah.
In that space.
What's the worst part of the game for you guys? There's got to be something that just drove you crazy, or you wish you could have them redo or something.
See, when you're at the end and you keep finding the voice memo things. Why the fuck you keep finding lots of different voice memos from the same person? We just keep the one. Just keep the one and just keep using it. Why does you have to go like, day 1, okay. Day 2. It's like, what are you doing? Just hold on to it. Hold on to it.
The world, but I have an endless amount of voice recorders.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, it's the same concept where you're finding bits of this other story, like we were talking about Steve, and like that's cool and all, but for fuck's sake,
that one not as well implemented.
No, yeah, okay, maybe that's the one chink in the armor. Like I thought that was, I just find it kind of silly, but I don't know.
I found it really annoying that you couldn't play those freaking things while you were walking around. It was like, oh really? I gotta stop and leave this in this pause menu while I listen to Marlene talk for 20 minutes. I'll do a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the one thing on a technical level with those that I wish that, for the audio ones, you could have just let them play and keep going and listen. But, I had a couple technical issues, which we talked about. And I think that I didn't have like a worst part of the game as far as narrative or anything like that. But I did have a couple. You talked about it in the review, and you and I had talked about it, as you were working on the review, where I had situations where I would spawn back in after dying, and just all the zombies and or even on levels where you were fighting humans, they were just freaking out and running around, and or I'd pop in and they'd all just aggro me right away, even if I was stealthed, and that stuff drove me nuts. I also had a situation. That last sequence in Salt Lake City when you're going through the tunnel with all the water and you're jumping from the bus tops, there was this one jump you had to make, and I don't know what it was. I actually had to go up and look it up online because you were jumping from a bus to the air vent, and then you walked down the air vent, and then that was when you fell in the bus and all that stuff happened.
Yeah.
So there was that jump from the bus to the air vent. I must have done that 20 goddamn times, and I just kept falling in the water. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm hitting the X button, I'm hitting the triangle button, I'm trying all kinds of stuff. Finally, I look it up, and I was on some website, Game Facts, or one of those forums, or Game Trailers, one of their message boards, and someone was like, yeah, you're doing it wrong. You just need to walk up to the top corner of it and just kind of push forward, and then it'll play a cutscene of you jumping. I'm like, really? I mean, they couldn't just plug in something where I walk up and hit X or any of the buttons I'm used to using to interact with the world to trigger that. I mean, that was to me, that really frustrated the hell out of me, and to have me actually have to go and look it up was the only time where it took me out of the game. And I was kind of like, now I have to go figure out what I'm technically doing wrong here that's preventing me from moving forward. Yeah. Because I don't know what I was trying to jump. I was in the water. I was trying to swim under the bus. I was doing all kinds of ridiculous shit.
That's crazy. People watching the stream right now are actually going to see the glitch. This is the glitch that I actually used in the video review, where like you'll see it like just in a second now as I'm walking up. This is from a respawn. There's no zombies there, but in just like a second now, you'll see zombies just like pop up. Yep, there it happened. It's like, what? Come on, game.
Yeah, it's disappointing, just those couple little technical things when everything else is so polished. I mean, obviously things are going to get through, but the thing with the respawn seems like it should have been something that...
Yeah, I think that... I never saw that. I mean, I saw it in your review I was watching, and I was like, what? But that never happened to me. I think that must have been like a... I mean, how recent was that then? That, like, I was like... when did you do that recording? That was like last week, was it?
Yeah, had to have been last week.
So like, that's weird, like, because that seems like a pretty big game ruiner, like, you know, like if you know that stops you in your was that what mode was it on? Was that on normal or survival?
Hard and survival. Yeah, hard and survival.
I encountered it on normal and easy also, though.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it just has something to do with the autosave system, because apparently the game did launch with a pretty bad autosave bug.
Oh, really?
So I'm wondering if then when they patched it and fixed it, if it was just kind of a residual kind of leftover from that.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. It was just one of those things where I wasn't even expecting to catch it. Like I remember when I was doing the playthrough of the game. And I captured all the footage that I wanted for the game, and I was like, it'd be really great if I had caught that bug, and then I could at least use it in the video review, so I don't sound like a crazy person. You know, it's always great when I have exact video evidence of whatever, you know, claim I'm saying about the game, whether it's good or bad. And I captured this segment specifically for Game Club, and then I was like, boy, it's happening right here. I was like, this is kind of perfect. It's a huge clip that I kind of got to dig into and pull it out, but I was glad that it kind of happened. So, like, again, so I don't look like a crazy person. But oh well. Yeah, I think as far as like glitches in the game go, there's like the only bad part for me. You know, Steve and I were talking earlier about at one point I had said that I didn't like the ending, but now that I'm thinking back on it, I think I do like the ending now. So
I was a bit unsure about the ending the first time because I really expected it. I think.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Like, I expected Joel to go get Ellie, and I expected him to take her away and save her because they were going to kill her. You know, there was no way around it. She was going to die. And I expected that, and then I was like, I think once I got past going, I know that this is going to be the outcome. It was more interesting to see how he was going to explain it to her. Was he going to tell her the truth or not? I find it interesting that he just didn't, like, you know, he's just protecting her. I think at that point it's kind of like solidified that, like, he was her kind of father in a way, not real father, but like pseudo father, you know, like sort of he was a symbol of a father to her, and she had become a symbol of a daughter to him.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, and a lot of times as a parent, I'm assuming anyway, not that I've had to get there yet because my son's only 1, but I'm assuming out of love and almost like out of a greedy relationship, like out of a greedy loving relationship with your kid, you kind of lie to him to protect him.
Yeah.
You know? And sometimes love is greedy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it's, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way that you would describe it, where you would tell your, by the way, if anybody has any kids, don't let them listen to this podcast. But, you know, kind of like when my parents always told me that they never drank or anything like that when they were underage. And now I'm thinking back like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Like who didn't kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those things. You do it to because you
Protect
hope to
them.
better your kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because-
Well, and I think that, you know, if you think about like adoption and stuff like that, then I think that Joel definitely was Ellie's, you know, adoptive parents and their children, and they have a bond.
Yeah.
And even though it's not a genetic bond, I mean, it's still strong and love is there. And,
Oh, yeah.
and you know,
Yeah.
so I think that Joel and Ellie, that is what they gained throughout this journey is that, you know, even if she's not his real daughter genetically, she is now his daughter, adopted daughter, or, you know, he's now responsible for her and will continue to protect her however he needs to. I thought that the ending, it was pretty clear that Ellie got it, you know, like she knew he was just lying to her, but she was fine. The fact that he lied to her meant
Yeah.
that he was, you know, he was now invested in her and cared about her. So she just took it and was like, okay, you know, whatever. I read a lot of complaints. People said that the ending was too Hollywood, which I thought was strange.
I didn't think the end was Hollywood at all. The Hollywood
didn't either.
ending would have been that Joel died in the attempt to rescue her, and then Ellie went off on her own. That would have been the Hollywood ending.
Yeah, or Joel dies right at the end there. Ellie goes in, but in my mind, the Hollywood ending would have been they find a cure through her, and she still lives, and then it flash forwards 20 years later, and she's an adult
And tells the story of Joel.
Civilization's being rebuilt, and everyone's happy,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Yes, this guy Joel, he was great," and he was like, you know, but that to me would have been the Hollywood ending. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think
that I
this is a
felt
Hollywood
this.
ending at all.
Yeah, I felt this one was kind of a little bit of a slap in the face ending, a little bit. I mean, the only way it could have been even a bigger slap in the face is if it ended right when they found the giraffes. They find the giraffes and they like pet them, and then they like have that moment with the photograph, and then they just walk off into the sunset to find the fireflies, and they're like, the credits roll, and you would have been like, what? You know, that would have been a real slap in the face. But I think that this ending was still pretty, I mean, devoid of any hope or anything. I mean, because you feel good about where they are as characters, but you don't feel good about where the world's going or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Hey.
that giraffe ending. I would have liked to
Yeah.
see that ending.
Yeah.
That would be- that would-
The Jurassic
Vegisaurus.
Us.
That would be the Kubrick ending. Would have been the giraffe.
Yeah, that was so Jurassic Park. I was like, really?
They travel in herds.
They travel. They do travel in herds. It's a Vegisaurus.
Just have Richard Attenborough come out of nowhere. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I'm surprised that
Fire-
hasn't been
the
edited together
fireflies.
yet. Seriously, why hasn't that been edited together yet? Hey, did you guys notice that most of the seasons begin off with with an albino creature?
No, the
Really?
rabbit. I'm thinking of the rabbit for winter, but I'm coming up short on.
There was a squirrel on the hood of like the taxi cab in fall.
Okay.
In summer when they go to see Bill, there's a rabbit, and there's also a white stork, I think it is. But they start off all the seasons with white animals.
What's the symbolic
I don't know.
relevance?
Just saying,
Oh,
did you
okay.
notice that?
I'm like going through the show notes. I'm like, where does he have something about white animals?
I'm
White
pretty
animals.
sure albinoism is like a genetic mutation, right? I'm asking. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's right, isn't it? It's yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So I guess I don't, and and there's also some cultures that view albino creatures as a sign of good luck and kind of stuff like that, like the white buffalo and everything. But yeah, I don't know if there's like any real symbology behind it. But yeah, almost all the seasons, or I'm pretty sure all of the seasons, start off with seeing a white animal of one sort or another. Most of them are within the cutscene, but she sees the white rabbit or one of the white rabbits while you're walking through the woods to Bill's house.
So, yeah, actually, and speaking of winter, I mean, that was kind of a big surprise for me. I did not think you were going to play as Ellie. And so when that happened, I was taken back. I was like, wow, all right, okay, this is awesome.
Best part of the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would probably be one of my favorite sequences of the game is hunting that deer. The part leading up to
that
David
was cool. Yeah.
was just a great kind of like a break from everything. No more infected, no more hunters. You're just kind of in this weird space where you're controlling Ellie. It kind of goes back to that opening sequence where you're controlling Sarah, and now you're controlling Ellie. But that was great. I was not expecting that at all. So and there was part of me at that moment where I thought, I was like, holy shit, is Joel dead? Like usually in games, there was like a part of me, like usually you're like, nah, he'll be, the main character is going to be back, whatever, it's fine. But like there was this little bit of me that was like, wow, would they go there with this game? Would they kill him off and just have me play the rest of the game as Ellie? And, and then when you meet David, you're kind of like, maybe this guy's not bad. Maybe he's not a creep. Maybe this is going to be, she's going to team up with these guys to go the rest of the way. And you're going to play as Ellie to get to the Fireflies. And so, I thought that was great. Really cool.
What was
Her whole segment I thought was like literally the best part of the game. I did think Joel was dead up until the point where she asks for medicine.
Right.
I was like, oh shit, man, he's really dead. But I liked Ellie. She's not. I don't want to say she's underpowered because she's not, but I don't know how to describe it.
It's different strengths, but she's quite nimble,
Yeah.
She's quite, she obviously hasn't got the strength that Joel had, because he's like 5 men rolled into a shirt. So, I don't know. How did you describe that guy?
Where he just
so
breaks
strong.
arms with like a simple flick of the wrist kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and not only that, but like even when you like kill somebody with Ellie, she's doing it with such a reluctance and almost like a lack of understanding, whereas Joel kind of kills without hesitation.
Yeah.
But when she does it, she sneaks up on somebody and stabs them in the back, and then when they're dead, she's just like, "Fuck her!" Like kind of almost like blaming them for making her do that in the first place.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Playing as Ellie was the best part, and it took every ounce of me to not use any Ellie footage in the video review too.
Yeah, it would have been a bit spoilery.
I even put up a spoiler in the beginning, like, hey, I might spoil the crap out of this.
Yeah.
But I did my best to not.
I like that Naughty Dog flat out lied to like the gaming press and everything too, and said, no, you don't control Ellie at any point in the game. You only play as Joel.
Oh, really? I didn't know
they
that.
flat out lied. They didn't let anybody play any of that part of the game, and kept that as and they managed to keep it a secret pretty much completely. I don't think that leaked out at all, and that was awesome. And during that documentary, there's a moment where the lead creative director guy from Naughty Dog actually jokes, and he's like, "Yeah, sorry, gaming press, I lied."
Well, good for them. They're protecting their product, They're protecting their story. They shouldn't have to answer that question. And by not answering that question, it's almost like an unspoken admission of guilt kind of thing,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, it's up to them. They want to share, and they can share stuff that isn't true anyway. It's just press, so. I'm glad they kept that under wraps. I was going to ask you guys, what was your first impressions when you met Dave? Like, what did you think? I didn't trust him. I was like, fuck off.
I didn't trust any of them. Like, nobody in the game did I trust.
No.
Yeah, I didn't really, but there was, like I said, there was that small moment where I thought Joel was dead, and I was like, is this going to be like a new character that you kind of, But
I was reluctant.
Yeah, no, not really. He was a little too creepy.
Yeah.
And Nolan North,
he even has a creepy haircut.
he did.
Yeah. I just thought he was way too cooperative. I was like, I don't know, this is far too easy. Like, this guy's being far too sort of friendly or whatever.
Even the good guys, like Joel's brother, like Thomas, even they are totally doubting of them when they arrive, and they're the good guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I did like that right after you meet David, you're kind of forced to play through a bunch of the game with him as a partner to kind of make you think that maybe he is trustworthy, and maybe I thought that was good that they did that, because it cast enough doubt on the idea of whether or not he was good or bad.
Yeah.
Because if they had just had that cutscene and then whatever, you probably would have figured out pretty quickly that he was a sketchy dude. But the fact that they actually make you work with him for a while, I thought was cool, because it did make me question. And I love that scene when after all the shit is done and you and him are sitting, Ellie and David are sitting there, and he starts telling her the story about how his men went out and then come back, and this maniac killed them and happened to be traveling with a young girl. And I thought that was just that moment. As he was telling her the story, I'm like, oh no, oh shit.
Yeah.
I am so dead right now.
Yeah, but
It was great.
Did you not? Whenever he told that, I was like, he is an asshole because he's part of that. Because he's part of that group. It was like, Joe, you killed those people because they were bad people, because they were trying to kill you. And like, at that point, after that, I was just totally. I mean, I was kind of doubting him anyway because I was so annoyed that I was like, I thought Joel was dead, and then I was like, realized Joel was sick, and I was still quite annoyed because I just missed him, missed that bearded maniac, and I was just like, no one can replace my Joel. Nobody can do it. Go away. And as soon as he said that, I was like, no, you're not gonna live. I was just sure in my mind there was gonna come a point where I would get to kill him, and then
That's
I did.
funny.
Yeah, as soon as he was like saying about the maniac, I was just like, they deserved it. Your mates deserve to die, and you will eventually die as well. So.
You wouldn't have thought much about it until like if you had just met them and then separated, you would have been like one thing, like, oh, okay. But then when he sends like that whole army of people after you, then you're like, wow, this guy's like not just a kind of a sort of asshole, but a total asshole.
Yeah, the asshole like of that part of the game. Like, what did you think of Bill? I thought Bill was kind of cool because he was like really standoffish, in a way. Like, it was like he didn't want you to be there. And like it wasn't like I liked that he wasn't welcoming, It was like I think he just got total honesty of what he was like straight away. Like you could tell he wasn't happy to be there. He is also insane as well, like in his own way. But like he wasn't a threat, like he was. You could tell whatever the favor. What was the favor?
You don't know. That might actually be revealed in the DLC, but but whatever
know,
favor he owed you, you don't know. But
it clearly was a big favor, like
yeah,
whatever it was, like for him to go and help us get a car, like
yeah. No, Bill is actually one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, I was a little upset with Naughty Dog. They recently did an AMA, and somebody had asked like if Bill was gay. And they had said it's open to interpretation, but the writer meant for him to be as gay. I wish they would have just been like, yeah, he's gay.
Yeah.
Because
I figured he was.
He's clearly gay.
He said my partner, and I was like, well, you're gay. I just figured straight away, like,
Yeah.
He was a great character.
I kind of wish that they had done that just so that they could say that they had a gay character in the video game and he is non-stereotypically gay and it's like his sexuality has nothing to do with his character other than that's just happens to be his sexuality.
Yeah.
I think that would have been like a really good and a powerful move on Naughty Dog's behalf, and that AMA that they did, I wish they had taken it back and were like, yeah, guess what, he's gay, so what, deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah. But no, Bill was one of my favorite characters, just because, like you said, he's so brutally honest, and it's a very business-like relationship with Joel, and it's kind of like as soon as we're done here, we're done. Get out of my town.
Yeah. Contract complete.
Yeah.
But it does feel like he respects Joel a bit, and that he does whatever that favor was. It was something enough that you can feel a bit of a slight bit of sentimental kind of attitude towards Joel.
Yeah.
He's reluctant because he's shut himself off and he wants nothing to do with people because people are what cause the problems, the infected. He has that line where he's like, the infected are simple. I understand, it's the people that scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
You also get a lot of the character of Tess through him as well, because a lot of people that you talk to, they're all like, hey, how's Tess doing? And it seems as though Tess is really the one that they interact with more than Joel, and Joel is kind of like, they're like, what are you doing here? Where's Tess? Kind of thing,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Steve is calling the 10-minute mark, so we'll chat for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up our thoughts, I guess.
The music then, the music has to be acknowledged. Like, is absolutely amazing. Like, really, really, really simplistic. And like, I don't mean simplistic. I mean really sort of sort of sparse, I guess. Like it's not like it's packed full of stuff. And like every track is like instrument wise, like there's not that many in it. It's like a lot of like kind of like nylon guitars and like some like gritty electric, and then like one of the things I thought was amazing in the music. I can't remember where it was, but you were definitely fighting against the infected, and it was just big hits, just going boom. But it wasn't it wasn't to a tempo or anything. It was just random hits, and like they didn't have breath between them that was consistent. It was just they were just coming in. I was just like, you never knew when it was going to happen, and I just kept getting me. I was like, fuck shit. And like, but I was really like, I appreciated it. Like, it was really good use of the music.
It was Gustavo. I'm going to butcher his last name. Gustavo Santaolalla. He's
it's better than what I could say. So
he's a Argentine musician and film composer. He'd done soundtracks for Babel, Brokeback Mountain,
Really?
Motorcycle Diaries. Yeah,
you should check out the Brokeback Mountain soundtrack. It is unreal. It's
I've
really
never listened to it. That's crazy.
Yeah, he features a big part in the documentary as well. Really interesting. Some of the stuff he was doing. Something like he had this one thing. It was like it was just like looked like a long metal wire on like a piece of wood, and he was playing it with like a bow. And that's like when there's a lot of parts in the game where you'll hear like this kind of like screeching kind of musical note. That's not, it's like almost like, is it like, what note is it? It's kind of like going back and forth a little bit. And that's what he's doing, is he's just going crazy on that wire with a bow and recording it. Yeah. And I wouldn't have ever realized that hadn't I watched him do it. I think there's actually, on the PlayStation YouTube channel, they have a couple videos as well that are taken from that documentary. Well worth checking out, because
That's awesome.
Big time.
I mean, dude is brilliant, and definitely enjoyed watching him as he was playing the stuff. But yeah, I just love that style. It's got kind of almost that the overall, what would you call it, the theme song kind of the game reminds me of like something that would play in like a Tarantino movie almost. Like at the end, it reminds me of like it kind of reminded me of the music in Kill Bill towards the end, when she's the scene, I don't want to spoil Kill Bill, but basically that final scene between her and Bill in the second volume, when he stands up and walks away. If you've seen Kill Bill, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, you won't. Yeah. Sorry, anyway, but that reminded me of that ending scene of Kill Bill a lot, and just that style, that real kind of just earnest guitar work. I really like. Good stuff.
There was a part of it that really kind of reminded me as well of there was a track in Red Dead Redemption when John Marsden is riding back home. Something about that particular track reminded me a lot of the music that was in this game as well. And I gotta say, man, they absolutely nailed the music in this one, because when there was music, and you don't hear a lot of music, it almost seemed like they picked the moments when you were definitely going to be hearing music, but otherwise, guess what? No music, because you need to be listening around for zombies. You need to be having, you got to check your pants for poop every 15 minutes because, somebody's going to be, running up on you. And I loved it. It's going to be running high for one of the best soundtracks of the year if I had such a category.
I think it's been nominated for something. What was I looking at earlier on? Let's see. So what was it? Last of Us gets an Academy. Oh no, never mind. Know what I said? I'm wrong.
It's gonna clean up at the VGAs next year. They're gonna get the Golden Dorito Award. It's gonna come out.
They're gonna get the Hot Pocket Award of Excellence.
Yes.
Oh man. God.
Yeah, no, I thought the soundtrack was really great. There was. I don't want to sidetrack us, but I did want to kind of counter somebody who made a comment on our YouTube video where I had mentioned that some of the symbolism in the game opened up to a deeper meaning, and I want to say yes, it does, and all of that stuff is very, very intentional in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, if somebody says, "Hey, you're reading into it wrong," I want to say back to them, I'm having fake arguments in my head apparently, but like good writers do this kind of thing intentionally. Good writers, selectively pick the names of their characters. They selectively pick which colors they're going to use in their movies and television shows and stuff. But the color lavender is used a lot in this game, and specifically the what are they, orchids in this? I already made a note of this.
Yes, you did. Yeah, the orchids.
Were they orchids?
I think it's...
No. You mean like
the lilacs?
Lilacs,
okay.
yeah, lilacs.
Lilacs.
Yeah, sorry.
All of that stuff, like the color lavender and specifically lilacs, are very much a symbol of a transition from being a young woman into a grown woman, so from like a girl to a woman. And a lot of this story is specifically about Ellie's transition from being a girl to Joel's daughter, from being a girl to a woman on her own, and kind of that whole growing up and making decisions on her own. And so I feel like a lot of that is really, really intentional. There's even a tie that they make within the game between Sarah. Sarah wears all lavender in the beginning, and then, towards the end of the game, they're walking through a field of those flowers again. There was something else I had picked up too.
And that moment when they're walking through that field, that's kind of the first time. That's the first time when Joel kind of has an open conversation about Sarah to Ellie. Also,
yeah.
At any other point in the game, he never really says anything about it. Even when he gives her the photo, or when she gives him the photo, he just kind of is like, "Oh yeah, well, I guess you can't run away from your past and blah blah blah."
Yep.
Yeah.
Or run away from who you are, But he doesn't actually say too much about her until they're walking through that field, and that's when he talks about them, I guess, taking trips and how they would have liked each other and been friends, and that was a great moment.
That photo, by the way, her number on her jersey is 14. And Ellie always self-identifies as being 14, like as her age, as 14. So there's like that gigantic tie. Yeah. And then if you really look at it, the entire, I don't want to call it second half of the game, the entire main portion of the game is just kind of a larger retelling of the story that happens in the introduction. So you've got the outbreak. God, I had all this kind of mapped out in my brain, and now I've kind of forgotten it all. But everything happens. Everything that happens in the beginning of the game happens in the later part of the game. The car crash happens twice with Joel and his daughter figure. Even the symbol of like Joel carrying his daughter figure happens twice in the game. So he does it with Sarah in the beginning, and he does it with Ellie at the end. You play as the daughter character for both parts. There's a large segment of the game where, in the beginning, where you leave your protection up to someone else, and they kind of do that twice. So if you play through the game a second time, keep that in mind. That what happens in the main portion of the game is kind of a larger retelling of what happens in that introduction.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know how someone could. Again, you're right. I don't want to get on a huge tangent, but I don't see how someone could say that there's none of that symbolism's there and that you're reading too much into it. I mean, that's a ridiculous claim, because reading into it is what you're supposed. With good fiction, what you're supposed to do is read into it. If that's it. I don't know. Never mind. I don't want to get off on a big tangent about it. It's there's that internet mentality that frustrates me, and it's just whatever.
Yeah, and you don't want to get into an argument with yourself that isn't quite
exactly
there. But I think that's what I really love about this game, is because you can read into it and see something larger there. But a lot of games out there are just kind of like, here's your game, and there's nothing wrong with sometimes having just a game for just a game's sake. But it's really nice to have a break for having a game that has not only a great core gameplay concept and a great story, but it actually goes deeper than that. And I love that. That's probably my favorite part about this entire game.
Yeah. I played Blood Dragon. I didn't read into it too much. I was like, I'm just going to take this one at face value, guys. It's all right.
Blood Dragon's awesome. I love Blood Dragon.
Nothing again. No, I'm an illustration of your point, as being there's games you can just play and it is what it is and whatever. But then there's games like this where there's a lot more going on under the hood, and it's fun if you're anyone who enjoys fiction and writing and literature to go in under the hood and kind of figure out why the spark plug's over here and why they routed it this way. I mean, it's interesting, and if that doesn't interest you, that's fine, but don't be like, there's nothing else going on in here. What's wrong with you?
There was one that I didn't pick up on that somebody on Reddit had picked up on, and I was like, oh, that's really a good one, but apparently it was unintentional. But what's his name? Henry's son?
Brother.
Sam.
Sam.
Brother. What was his brother's name?
Sam.
When Sam finds a transformer, they said, was that foreshadowing that he was going to transform?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, that was actually an accident. They just wanted to have a toy, and a transformer is very much, a very identifiable toy. And I was like, oh, that would have been kind of cool if you had thought that through ahead of time and was like, yep, we did that intentionally. Glad you picked up on it.
That's awesome.
All right. Any final thoughts before we round out and call it a show?
I'm calling this one right now. This is my game of the year.
Wow.
Already. I'm already calling this as game of the year for when we do the Elder Geek Eggie Awards, so that's a spoiler for that. And this is probably my game of the generation. I mean, I probably, had I not played this game, I think I probably would have said Red Dead Redemption might have been my game of the generation. But this has I think come in and dethroned that. Still a great game. I think Red Dead's probably my number 2 now, but this is my number 1. Absolutely. This game has defined the past 7 years of consoles for me, and yeah.
Chris, what about you, bud?
I couldn't agree more. Like it's my top game. Game for both things, really, for the PS3 generation and just of the last few years, to be honest. And like I can't remember the last time a game has affected me the way this game has. Like, it's like it's not just a computer game. It's this story. It's like a film. It's like all these things wrapped into one. Like, it's all these amazing experiences, and like I think I don't want to think of it as it's once in a blue moon that this comes around. I want to think of it as, here's the bar, guys. Everyone else, let's pick up the pace and let's make the next generation of consoles have this kind of quality. And like of games like Watch Dogs, which looks. Have you seen Watch Dogs yet?
Dude, Watch Dogs looks sick.
Oh, it's so good. Like Watch Dogs and like Red Dead Redemption 2 as well. I mean, like, I'm pretty hopeful that we're going to be having this kind of conversation again about other games. And like the fact that they're making DLC for it, I really hope that it maintains the same quality. I don't care what the stories are with it. As long as they maintain the quality that they've had in the actual game, it's going to be good. But yeah, I loved it. I'm actually going to go play it after we finish here. Just talking about it, it's making me want to play.
It's going to be really tough. Like, I don't want to call it game of the year yet because we're still only in August, which I can't even believe we're in August. But there still are some other big games that need to be coming out yet. AC4 is not going to be better than it, but like you said, Watch Dogs has got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
But definitely one of the best games of the generation. It might be. I don't know if I want to say it's better than Red Dead though. It's really, 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 really good, and I would say it's better than 99.99% of games. And I really do recommend anybody who has any sort of doubt about this game to definitely check it out. Yeah. I also want to say thanks real quick to anybody who like left comments to us for about the show, and for people that actually watched the video review too. Yeah, that's that. This is just such a great game.
Yeah.
And like you said, I hope this isn't the rarity. I hope this becomes more of the norm kind of thing.
I would like
the next
to. I kind of, part of me doesn't want them to make a sequel to this.
Right.
I wouldn't mind a little more DLC.
Yep.
I wouldn't mind DLC that fleshes out, like we were saying, the Ish storyline or any of the kind of the sub stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of really would not like to see a sequel to this anytime soon.
Nope.
Maybe in like 5 years on the PS4 they come out with a continuation or a side story that takes place in the same kind of fictional universe. Or
maybe even a 10 years later kind of thing, but not a direct, like, here's Joel and Ellie again,
Yeah. Hey, Ellie, how you been doing this past year?
Or you could do like 10 years before, and like, show how Joel's come to be what he was at that point 20 years later, or you could have
He started knitting. You know, he's really into knitting, and
he loves his knitting. He makes his own shirts.
Hi, Ellie. I knitted you this sweater here.
Yeah.
Oh well. It's sad that we got to cut this out. There's so much I wanted to talk about, like the fate of Joel's wife, and there's so many other branching discussions that we could be having. But
I think whenever the DLC comes out, whenever that's going to be, we should even if we're not doing it on Twitch or whatever, we should have a chat about it anyway. Cause
agreed, man.
Yeah,
it'd be good.
Yeah, I think we could revisit it for sure.
Cool.
Agreed. Should we call it a show?
Let's call
I
it
think
a show.
so. I think so. Thanks everyone for tuning in and for watching us on Twitch and YouTube. And if you download the podcast on iTunes, thank you very much. We always appreciate if you would subscribe, give us some feedback, some stars, 5 preferably. But if you have to give less than that, then do what you got to do. Rate us up on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. That would be swell. And Chris, man, thank you very much. You, in a lot of ways, you made this episode possible. So,
in many, many ways.
This episode of the Game Club is brought to you by HyperDuck SoundWorks. Head over to it's hyperduck.co.uk, right?
Yeah, that's the main website.
And we'll have a link to your YouTube channel and everything as always.
Awesome.
Here on the video.
I loved it.
Show notes.
It's good,
yeah, man, it was great having you back. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing a Joel cosplay for
really.
For
yeah.
So we'll see. I've been googling like gas masks and flashlights that hook onto backpacks and stuff like that. So we'll see. I got the beard's just about. I might need to trim it up a little bit. I got the gray hair already, so we'll see. I might be walking around MagFest in a flannel shirt.
So cool. Here, if you find a place that does that, see that green shirt that Joel wears. I really want that shirt. It's really nice. I was like. That's a really nice shirt, 20 years on, still looking good.
It's a quality item.
Yeah, it's a keeper. It's a keeper.
Awesome.
Anyway.
All right, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with Phil to do Rogue Legacy, I think.
Phil?
Maybe. Phil, that guy? Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean other Chris?
Other Chris.
Yeah. Chris 2.
Chris 2. Better.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
See ya.